Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have another premiere draft of the core sets format, the format with one pack of M19, M20, and M21, the three most recent core sets. So it is a lot of more basic core set style Magic, and a lot of just drafting the best bombiest kind of cards rather than specific synergistic archetypes like we've gotten recently in Kaldheim and Zendikar, stuff like that. So that being said, I think we have a pretty powerful rare here, although one of our uncommons I was taking a good peek at as well. This is 2 black for a 3/2, already above the rate for its mana cost, plus you can exile creature cards from your graveyard to spit out 2/2 zombie tokens, so that's just a really good ability, potentially spitting out multiple creatures off of this one card over the course of the game. Of course, we also have Skyrider Patrol. This is quite powerful. 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer. At the beginning of combat, you can spend 2 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on one of your creatures and give it flying until end of turn. That is also a quite bomby card, pretty powerful way for a green deck to fly over and get that last few bit of damage. However, that is a 2-colored card, so it does lock us up into a 2-color pair, whereas Graveyard Marshal, I think it's almost as powerful, and it's mono black, so we get to choose our second color based on what we see in the next packs rather than have it chosen for us. And here we have some pretty great options in blue, just a lot of blue cards in general, to be honest. There's Sift, which is a powerful draw spell, drawing 3 and discarding 1 for 4 mana. We have Salvager of Secrets, which is good value, a 2/2 for 5, definitely below the rate for the stat line, but the enter the battlefield effect is great, returning any instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. There's also a Dwindle for a solid blue removal spell, and outside of blue, we have Angel of the Dawn for any aggressive white deck, and Skyscanner can fit into the most decks, just being a decent card for literally any deck, just a solid colorless flyer there. I think I'm just going to take Sift here. It's just a very nice draw spell, very powerful card advantage spell in that way. Drawing 3 and then discarding a card. Discarding a card's hardly a downside at that point because you're very likely to have something that's not useful to you, like your 6th land or some card that's like way too expensive at the time, something like that. And we're pretty happy to be in blue here when we have a pretty solid game-ending flyer like Horizon Scholar. It is a lot of mana, so you can't end up with a ton of like 6 mana cards in your deck, but when we see one that's so powerful here, we're just going to slam it. I mean, 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer, it only costs 1 blue to cast, so it's not even color restrictive, plus you get to scry 2 when it comes into play. Just a really, really solid card in general. Really big game-ending flyer there. There's other good cards in blue here, but nothing quite as powerful as Horizon Scholar. Aven Windmage, just a good flyer on the curve. Divination for a kind of a smaller draw spell than Sift, but a good one nonetheless. And Snapping Drake for like a smaller flyer as well. I think I'd take Aven Windmage before Snapping Drake though. And I think we're just going to keep hopping on the blue train. I am a pretty big fan of the Aviation Pioneer. 3 mana for a 1/2 and a 1/1 flyer. That's 2 power and 3 toughness for 3 mana, which is just a decent stat line for the cost. Plus you're spreading it out among 2 creatures, one of which is evasive. So just does a lot of decent stuff for its cost. And we are already taking a big look at blue and trying to hop into that color, so I'm pretty fine with Aviation Pioneer here. We also do have Electrify, though, which is good removal in red. I think this is what I would take if I were taking a non-blue card here. Other than that, there's also Gallant Cavalry, good for the aggressive white decks, and Skyscanner, again, just a solid card because it will always make the cut in basically any deck. So I like Aviation Pioneer best here just because it's going with what we're going for here, and yeah, other than that, Electrify may be the best card off color. Salvager of Secrets seems solid here. Again, just a solid value card, and we can just keep cutting off blue from the other drafters, just scoop up all the blue cards that we see. Just 5 mana 2/2, bring an instant or sorcery back. This can bring back our Sift, and we can really go off if we can survive. The biggest problem with Salvager of Secrets is that it's not the greatest against aggressive decks, because you do have to tap out on turn 5, spend all of your mana to make a 2/2. It's a pretty low impact on the board for its cost, so if you're getting beaten down aggressively, it can be pretty bad. However, if you can make the game take a while, make it a mid-range or a more controlling matchup, then the Salvager is going to be just a lot lot of value, just a great card in general. Other than the Salvager, there's another good red removal spell, Fiery Finisher, although this is a ton of mana. And then there's just like some random black cards here, I guess. Luminous Bonds still in here, pick 6. But there's the Strangling Spores as well, which isn't that much worse than Luminous Bonds. I guess it is quite a bit worse. Luminous Bonds, 3 mana for a pacifism effect, enchanting a creature, making it so it can't attack or block, effectively shutting down any creature unless it has a really good activated ability, or triggered ability, just any form of abilities it doesn't shut down. However, we already have Graveyard Marshal, we really want to play that, and Strangling Spores is decent removal as well. This is instant speed, -3/-3. It can kill a lot of things, but it can't kill everything, like Luminous Bonds can kill like 6/6s and stuff that Strangling Spores can't kill. That being said, we already have a Graveyard Marshal and we have nothing else in white here. We've been passing a bunch of white decent cards, so somebody on our left is probably white, definitely at the point where we're passing a Luminous Bonds, pick 7. Now, what do we have? Magistrate's Scepter, I didn't mention it when I saw another one of these earlier. It's a cool card, but it just takes way too long and too much mana to start going off with this. So I figure I probably should mention that now. This pack's not very good. I mean, there's like Mind Rot, make our opponent discard some cards. Blood Divination might actually be okay in this deck, because we do have Aviation Pioneer, which is going to leave just a weak 1/2 body around. Salvager of Secrets just leaves a 2/2 around. That's not very impressive. We can make more tokens with Graveyard Marshal. When you have enough tokens and just weak creatures that don't affect the board much to sacrifice to Blood Divination, it can be fine. So I guess I'll take that. I'm just not a massive like Mind Rot player, although it is decent in a lot of formats. We have Epicure of Blood for just like the 5 mana 4/4. Don't have any life gain yet, but we could always pick up some amount in black. There are a few random life linkers and stuff like that. There's some good green cards in this pack. I think green's got the best stuff here. Druid of the Cowl letting you ramp into your big stuff and being a decent early game blocker, and Colossal Dreadmaw just being the exact big stuff you want to ramp into. I'm pretty sure we're relatively committed to blue-black here, but yeah, I'm not going to play Totally Lost or Epic here, I guess, so we could just take a Dreadmaw there. Take another Dreadmaw over to Anticipate. If we're seeing Dreadmaws this late, that is a good sign for green, so maybe leave ourselves open to switching into blue-green or black-green if we open up like a powerful green rare, something like that. Definitely going to take a Dwindle here, though, over a Giant Spider. Giant Spider's decent, but we do have more blue cards. We're more likely to end up in blue here than anything else. So we'll take the fine blue removal spell there. I'm actually happy to take an Elvish Rejuvenator over Uncomfortable Chill. This can be a decent combat trick, giving all your opponent's creatures -2/-0. It could be like really good if they try to double block something or anything like that, but generally you do have to hold up 3 mana to do it. You do draw a card. I don't know, it's just a weird card to me, but I have seen it do some crazy things. Totally Lost, Giant Spider, or Mind Rot here. Actually all viable options. All pretty equally mediocre. Now that we have Rejuvenator and Double Dreadmaw, I kind of want to just take Giant Spider. I am thinking that I'm seeing a lot of decent green stuff here. Maybe go blue-green this time around. Got a Vol of Vines. Not really playable, but Smelt is completely unplayable. Only just destroying an artifact. Well, let's see what kind of rares we open up here. See if we get something powerful. Not at all. This card is not very good in limited. Even if we were open to being red, you do really have to draft around this. You want to have very few creatures with 2 or less toughness, because then this just kills them immediately. But if you have just a bunch of beefy creatures, this can be solid. So we're not taking the rare out of this pack. Even the uncommons don't really work for us, the best of them being Empyrean Eagle for a blue-white Flyers deck, and Uncaged Fury for a finisher in an aggressive red deck. Neither of those are things we can really do here. We might be able to take Eagle, but then we're pushing into a 4th color, so I don't think that's the play. I don't think the blue cards are that great. I don't think the black cards are that great here. Honestly, just going to take a Silverback Shaman or a Rabid Bite, and it's kind of a hard choice between those. Green doesn't get a lot of removal, neither does blue, so we probably have to take Rabid Bite highly, because if we do end up in blue-green, removal is going to be the hardest thing to get, but Silverback Shaman is really solid. 5 mana for a 5/4 trample, and it dies, or it draws a card when it dies. It dying is not really a big selling point. Most creatures can die. What do we have here? Again, not much in blue. We do have a murder in black, which is definitely the best card in this pack. 3 mana to destroy a creature at instant speed. It's pretty fantastic. Yeah, the blue cards here just aren't great. Captivating Gyre, you really have to draw at the right time. If you ever just don't have enough mana for it, it's terrible. And if you ever just top deck it in the late game when you're not like racing your opponent, it's pretty bad. There's just Negate and Crab outside of that, because Leyline is pretty unplayable and limited, just giving your stuff flash. Putting yourself down a card to do that is not worth it. So we're taking Netcaster Spider or Murder here. Netcaster Spider is like if we just decide right now we are green, period. And Murder is if we keep doing this dance between green and black being our second color. I guess Murder is so much better than Netcaster Spider just because it's such a great card that I probably should take it here, even if we don't end up running it. Well, now we have Thicket Crasher in green, which isn't great, but it's fine. 4 mana for a 4/3 trample. It obviously works if you have elementals to combo with it, although the only set where there are a lot of elementals is M20, the current set here. So we won't see any more elementals in the third pack. Do like Gorging Vulture for like blue-black flyers. Self-Mill does combo well with the Graveyard Marshal as well. Vengeful War Chief can be a fine late-game creature, but I think Gorging Vulture is just going to be better most of the time, just because it's good on curve. You'll take the Vulture here. I'm going to just drop my green pile over here now, because I'm really not sure on the secondary. We got 6 black cards. We have 5 green cards, although one of these black cards is borderline unplayable, just a 6/5 there. So we have Boneclad Necromancer. This does combo well with the Self-Mill of Gorging Vulture and just expendable creatures like 2/2s for 5 and 1/2s at 3. Just exile a creature from your grave, and then all of a sudden this is 5 mana for a 3/3 and a 2/2. I do think that's pretty good. Bone Splinters as well combos with expendable creatures, but we don't actually have that many creatures right now. I think we want some more before we start taking Bone Splinter type cards, and Boneclad Necromancer will help a lot with that, being 2 creatures off of 1 card. Is kind of expensive though, and another Gorging Vulture is pretty great here. And in green, we'd just be getting a solid card on curve, like a 3 mana 3/3. Don't think we'd get anything to combo with the champion, but we are kind of low on 2 mana cards here, so if we took a green card, we'd probably take Woodland Champion. Yeah, I think I'm going to commit to black here and grab another Gorging Vulture so we can have that Self-Mill combo stuff. And now we have good 2-drops, which is something I'm missing out on quite a bit here. So I think we will be blue-black this time around, a nice Dimir deck. Let's sift out of here, dwindle out of here so we see our creature curve. Definitely grabbing Blood Burglar or Fenlurker. Blood Burglar's easier to cast, but Fenlurker can be better. Exile a card from your opponent's hand. Definitely better in a more mid-range you're controlling deck. I think we're more like that than an aggressive deck, so I'm going to take Fenlurker here. We also look to be heavier into black than blue actually at this point, and a lot of our black costs are restrictive. Double black on Fenlurker, double black on Graveyard Marshal, double black on Necromancer, Murder, all of that stuff. So we're already going to want a high swamp count, which is one of the things that Fenlurker requires. So it's going to be easier to cast for this deck than most other decks, because we're already looking to run a lot of swamps. This Leyline's unplayable and limited. Thought Distortion is just too much mana. And Soul Salvage, I guess, would be the best card because Befuddle's not that exciting and Zephyr Charge doesn't really do much. So Soul Salvage it is. We are definitely looking for some more creatures here, although I guess with quality enough removal spells, we could play a very controlling deck here. We have Strangling Spores, Murder, and Dwindle thus far. Yeah, this doesn't seem great because our deck is pretty low on creatures right now. You do want a lot to make this do something great, but it's that or like an Anticipate or Sorcerer. You know, maybe I'm just going to take a Sorcerer, actually. I feel like we don't have a lot of creatures right now, and we're not particularly likely to end up with a ton, where that Gruesome Scourger would be solid. So I don't think it'll be solid in here. Probably not playing Convolute. That just seems definitely a bad draw in the late game. I guess unless they pay 4, so usually that'll actually counter something. Just a bad top deck in the very late game, I suppose. See what we get in our last pack here. This deck is shaping up a little bit. It's actually starting to look reasonable. Not fantastic, but reasonable for sure. Was definitely floundering a bit there at the start of this pack. Unsure of where exactly to go. So what do we have here? We have Walking Corpse for a 2-mana card. I don't know why that is the first thing that shot out to me, because we're definitely not taking it. Sky Scanner works good with Blood Divination. And it's easy to cast. Enthralling Hold is probably the most powerful card, although it is also 5 mana, and it's restrictive on when you can play it. You need to be in a specific situation where your opponent has attacked you with their best creature, and then you take it. But it is very powerful when it resolves. I think I'll take Enthralling Hold here, but Shacklegeist is pretty great. 2 mana for a 2/2 flyer that can only block flyers, and then Rousing Reed's pretty good too. A draw spell and a creature buff at the same time. I think I'm going to take Enthralling Hold here. We definitely seem like a more controlling deck that's going to want to use as many removal spells as possible, and the removal spell that can also kill an opposing creature seems pretty great. Or the removal spell that also takes control of an opposing creature seems pretty great. Here I think it's going to be a Shipwreck Dowser pretty easily. This is just the best card in the pack. 5 mana for a 3/3 with Prowess, and you return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Obviously, it's just a much better version of Salvager of Secrets, and that was already a fine card for this deck that we were looking into to bring back. You know, Mind Rot, Murder would be the best one to bring back, and then like Sift, Strangling Spores, stuff like that. So Shipwreck Dowser seems fine here. If we wheel something, we want like the Caged Zombie or the Keen Glide Master, just more early blockers to hold down the fort. Another Shipwreck Dowser here seems solid, but we do need to pick up more instants and sorceries to really work with them. Some of our non-creature spells are auras, and obviously they can't pick those up, so we are looking for more good instants and sorceries here. We could also use a Skeleton Archer, I suppose. We don't have anything at 4 mana yet, and we have a lot at 5. Yeah, maybe we're supposed to take Skeleton Archer here just to fill out the curve better. Don't think we take Opt or Rewind, although they do give us more things to bring back with our Salvager and Shipwreck Dowser. Yeah, with 2 of these sort of effects already, I suppose I probably should fill out the curve a little better and get a 4-drop in here. Skeleton Archer. Well, Sift and Blood Divination are 4-drops. I'm going to take a Shipwreck Dowser. I don't really know for sure there. Oh my god. Pick 4 Elder Gargaroth. Well, oh, how the turntables. Apparently we should have been in green because that card is nigh unbeatable. I don't think we have enough green to just swap back at this point, unless we go black-green. How many green cards do we have that are playable? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue cards. It's possible. I'm going to take it. We're losing an Opt if we don't end up in green. This card is just so freaking good. Unlimited 5 mana for a 6/6 Vigilance Reach Trample with more text after that. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you create a 3/3 or draw a card or gain life. That card is just the nuts. And yeah, the blue's not great here. Frost Breath and Lofty Denial, so we're taking Quirion Dryad or Pride Malkin. We're going to be heavier into black than green, so I do like a Quirion Dryad here, getting a +1/+1 counter every time we play a black spell. Although Pride Malkin might be a little better generally. No, we have so many black spells here. I think Quirion Dryad should be good. It's also a 2-drop. Anything good in blue here? Not really. Spine Megalodon would probably be the pick. Maybe cancel to go with the Dowsers. But I'm going to take Fetid Imp here. Nice early Death Toucher. Can definitely block very well, blocking flyers or ground troops and Death Touch killing anything we need to kill. So I'm going to lock that in and start building the green-black deck here, see how that looks. Still have like nothing at 4 mana. That is a consistent theme here. Definitely have a pretty high curve here. 1 ramp card, the Elvish Rejuvenator. Now what do we got? Satanic Growth, maybe. We already have a lot of non-creature spells here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess we could use like one more Maybe a little flying defense with Snare Spinner. Definitely not Mind Rot. Snare Spinner or Growth here, I think. I'm going to take Snare Spinner. Now we have Walking Corpse, Masked Blackguard, or Caged Zombie. 5 cards at 2 mana already. 3 cards at 3 mana. I kind of like the Caged Zombie here. Just a high toughness blocker for that point in the game. Now we'll just take a 2 mana 2/2. Not a massive fan of Track Down. Scry 3, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or land, you draw a card. Can be decent in green just because they don't get a lot of card draw, but I think we already have some decent value spells. We have Blood Divination and like Soul Salvage, bringing things back from the grave in the late game. How much do we have to work with Garruk's Uprising? Not a lot, right? 2, 3. Well, we got a few. Maybe Fungal Rebirth. Now I'll go with Garruk's Uprising here. See if that pans out. If nothing else, it does give your whole field trample, but I guess most of our big stuff already does have trample. So that can draw cards off of Epicure, Gargaroth, Double Dreadmaw, and Bog Stomper. Although I guess we're probably cutting one of those. Not going to play any of these. Arena's getting mad at me forcing it to auto-pick here. Yeah, we're not playing anything we get from this point on. Oh, no, we're going to play that cat. Glad I didn't take the cat earlier then if the cat was going to wheel there. Probably not playing Uprising and Bog Stomper here. But other than that, we don't have too many more cards to cut because we did switch colors so often. Alright, so here we are in the deck build. See if there's anything in the sideboard we want to throw in. I don't think so. Oh, there's a Valorous Steed we got last pick. Let's get that out of here. Only have to cut 1 card then. I'm trying to turn, trying to turn the card style off, not keep it on. Come on, game. There we go. We've gotten rid of the Parallax styles, and let's build ourselves a deck here. Actually ended up with 1,000,000 cards at 2 mana, so we have an aggressive curve, that's for sure. And then Soul Savage is like a late game value spell. Bring back a couple of these to get back in the game. Same with the Blood Divination. Sacrifice a weak creature that doesn't matter anymore to get more value there. So these are not cards we're really playing turn 3, turn 4. Playing them later on. 1 cut here. Don't really have anything to combo with the Epicure. It's kind of just a 5 mana 4/4, so maybe we could cut that. I guess it works with Gorging Vultures, but really it's just draining 1 life from our opponents 1 time on average. Maybe we even just cut a Snare Spinner. We've got so many 2 mana cards at this point. Snare Spinner seems like maybe the weakest. Maybe Walking Corpse is the weakest, but I like being heavy into black because Quirion Dryad, the more black spells we have, the better. And we have a lot of double black costs in our stuff, so we definitely want to play like 10 Swamps, 7 Forests if possible, because we don't need 2 green mana until 5 and 6 mana. Yeah, I'll just cut a green 2-drop there, cut a Snare Spinner, and throw in another Swamp, take out another Forest, and here is our nice Witherbloom deck. Again, getting used to the new Strixhaven names before I start drafting and playing that set a lot. I want to get used to the new names for those colors. And we got to use those fancy new Strixhaven sleeves. Alright, well, this deck actually does look pretty solid. Was pretty insane getting that Elder Gargaroth pick 4 there and having to swap back into green at the very end of this draft. But I think it panned out. I mean, the fact that Elder Gargaroth is just such a powerful card, immediately by picking that, our green became just as good as our blue was, even though we have more decent blue cards. Elder Gargaroth just... This card is as good as, 2 Shipwreck Dowsers combined, or maybe even both Shipwreck Dowsers and Salvager of Secrets combined. And then obviously we have other good stuff in green, Double Dreadmaw, Rabid Bite. We have some solid stuff there, so... The swap of colors was not as difficult as I thought it would be. We'll see if it pans out for us. Obviously, it's going to depend on whether or not we draw our Elder Gargaroth often. Even without it, though, it does complement our black pretty well. our black has a ton of 2 and 3 mana creatures for the early game, and our green gives us access to 2 Colossal Dreadmaws at 6 mana. It gives us some good game enders, just cards to close out the game, finish off those last few points of damage that our 2-3 mana creatures didn't get to do by the time they got walled off. All right. We are going forced. We're going forced here. Unfortunately, no swamp for the Yorox Fenlurker. Just a 1 black right now, so we don't get to cast anything here if we don't draw well. Like, we could just keep drawing 4 or 5 mana cards and then we don't cast anything all game. We have to draw specifically a swamp to cast Fenlurker. If we draw like another forest, even then we don't cast anything until turn 4. I think I am. This is a rough one. I think I got a mulligan, unfortunately. I think you always want to have something that you know you can be doing. Worst case scenario, you're casting at least something. Or at the very least, you can keep hands where you're only 1 land away from doing stuff. If that land can be any land. The fact that we needed specifically a swamp there made that actually pretty rough, in my opinion. This hand actually is pretty good for a mull to 6 because we have the Elvish Rejuvenator that gives us the little value drawing a land off the top, and then Blood Divination to sacrifice it, giving us a lot of value drawing 3 cards there. I think I will play the Rejuvenator before the Pride Malkin here, not really trying to get super aggressive here. Want to draw some more cards, make it to our... make it to our Colossal Dreadmaw. Should probably mention what happened there, just in case anybody is just listening to the audio. I know some people do that, although it would be kind of difficult with my videos. I don't do a play-by-play of everything that happens. We cast our Elvish Rejuvenator, which allows us to look at the top 5 and grab a land from them. There were 0 land cards in the top 5 cards of our library, but I guess at least even if Rejuvenator didn't grab a land, so it got us no value that way, it still got us 5 cards closer to a land instead of just being mana screwed forever this game. I'm going to play the Pride Malkin and put a counter on itself, I think, actually. Because obviously it's not going to be able to attack in against a 1/1 unless it has 2 toughness, and Quirion Dryad's going to have 2 toughness as soon as I cast 1 black spell here. Our opponent drops an Octoprophet, 3/3 that scries 2 when it comes into play. So they have a 3/3 and a 1/1 flyer on the board up against a green-blue deck. We have hit 4 mana now. So we can cast our Blood Divination, or we can cast our Fetid Imp and get a 1/2 flyer out here. Start attacking in against Sky Scanner. We can attack in with just the Pride Malkin here still. I think I will do that. Probably just going to sacrifice Rejuvenator. Draw some cards, try to get to our 6 mana for our Dreadmaw here. We do hit for 3 with Pride Malkin. They don't want to trade with the Octoprophet. Sacrifice our 1/1, draw 3 cards. Buff our Dryad up into a 2/2. We've drawn into a Graveyard Marshal, a Mind Rot, and a Forest. So we have our 5th land, as well as a Graveyard Marshal is going to be great this game. We already have 1 creature engraved, the Elvish Rejuvenator, and we're likely to have more pretty soon because our creatures are not that big. And right on cue, our opponent does cast a Rabid Bite, having their Octoprophet deal 3 damage to Quirion Dryad, so we can exile that with Graveyard Marshal as well. And a Stormwing Entity coming out, 3/3 Flying Prowess. Scries 2 when it comes into play. So that's a pretty big threat. We definitely want to draw like a Murder or something for that. I guess our Imp can block that with Death Touch, but if we cast an Imp here, we have to hold up a black mana, so we can't cast Imp and Marshal because that would require 3 black mana, and I'm not holding up any Death Touch mana. So yeah, if we cast Imp, it's the only thing we're casting this turn, because we're not going to cast Imp without holding up Death Touch mana. So we either cast Imp, or we cast Graveyard Marshal and get like a zombie here. Or we could cast Graveyard Marshal and Mind Rot our opponent. I suppose we could still just cast Imp and Mind Rot our opponent, and then Imp can't get Death Touch this turn, so it doesn't block the entity, but it holds Skyscanner off at least. Pride Malkin holds off Octoprophet, we just take 3 this turn. Actually seems not that bad. I'll actually go for the Imp here, because we are definitely going to want it on the board, so might as well get it out now. Mind Rotting our opponent here, just making the best use of our mana. Could play the Graveyard Marshal as well, but then I'm not getting any zombies this turn. And don't really want to trade it for Octoprophet or anything, so it's not helping our blocks at all. Alright, I'll attempt to trade with the Octoprophet here. The trade goes off, we take 3 in the sky from the Stormwing entity, but the Fetid Imp did hold off Skyscanner luckily. A Colossal Dreadmaw from our opponent. We have drawn our Murder, so we can murder Dreadmaw and block Stormwing entity, because if we do it the other way around, we're taking some trample damage. I think I just passed turn here. Maybe I'm supposed to murder during our turn so they can't have a counter spell, since they are in blue. Just murder Dreadmaw immediately. But then if they have a removal spell for... Ooh, okay, I'm so glad I didn't murder Dreadmaw immediately, because this plays really well against their aura. Now we counter their draw 2, because when Rousing Reed enters the battlefield, they draw 2 cards and discard a card. If we can kill the creature, it's not going to enter the battlefield, it's just going to go straight to the grave. They won't get any value off of their aura here. They have 1 card left, we'll see if it is a counterspell of some form. Disperse, return something to its hand. So they return Dreadmaw to their hand so they can replay it after this, but we still at least countered the Rousing Reed from it. So we still got a 2-for-1 there. We countered Rousing Reed and got rid of their Disperse rather than killing Dreadmaw. So we still did okay there, but definitely not ideal. We are going to have to deal with that Dreadmaw now. Of course, we can try to deal with it with our own Dreadmaw. They have no other cards in hand, so should pan out if our opponent is not lucky off the top deck here. So we drop down our Dreadmaw, planning to just trade Dreadmaws if they attack with theirs, and then try to close out this game with Graveyard Marshal, now letting us get like a million zombies at this point. So we'll exile our weakest creatures first. Suppose I should have played a land last turn. I usually like holding on to like a land or 2. Generally, but I guess we don't have anything that requires us to discard a card in this deck, and if we had played that land, we could have gotten just 2 zombies right there immediately. This is a really easy trade for us. If they have a combat trick, that'll be rough, but if they don't, we can obviously just exile our Dreadmaw from our grave and just get more zombies off of it. So now we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, so I can cast a Soul Salvage. With 8 mana here, costs 3 to do that, and then I have 5 mana up, so I can get back the Imp and the Pride Malkin, cast both of those. That can make the Imp a big flyer. Yeah, that makes the Imp a 2/3 flyer, which is big enough to block other stuff. We definitely need flyers to block with, so Soul Salvage is better than just getting zombies here. Play our Imp, throw a counter on it to make it a 2/3. And then they don't have viable attacks with their flyers anymore, just a 1/1 and a 2/1 against a 2/3. And I will offer the trade with our zombie token, because there's plenty more where that came from. Whereas there will not be plenty more flyers from our opponent, generally, where that came from. Definitely not offering the trade with our Graveyard Marshal, though. Alright, so we have traded our 2/2 zombie for their 2/1 flyer. Maybe they have a Fungal Rebirth here? Pulse of Marasa to pick up the Frilled Sea Serpent. They can give that unblockable every turn as a 4/6 creature, so we definitely need to draw a Rabid Bite or some form of removal, otherwise we will die to that in 3 turns. I do have 9 mana here, so I could use Graveyard Marshal 3 times if I had enough creatures in my grave, but I only have 2. Luckily we don't have any other cards to bring things back from the grave. We just have 1 Soul Salvage in this deck, so we'll just make as many zombies as possible and try to outrace the Sea Serpent here. Not likely to pan out if we don't draw Anything else, though? Obviously, preferably we draw just a Rabid Bite. Just shoot that with our Death-Touching Fetid Imp. We're dead in 3 turns either way, whether or not we attack with the Imp, so I think attacking with the Imp is better just to get as much damage into our opponent as possible. It also got them to attack with Sky Scanner, so we get in with Pride Malkin here too, without having to trade off with that. Makes it more likely that we can find lethal here. Just attack all, because we've just drawn a 2-2. Just gotta do our best to get lethal here. Opponent has 5 damage against us here. If they give the Sea Serpent unblockable, but if they give the Sea Serpent unblockable, that takes all of their mana to do that, and we have more than 9 power on board, so we crack back for lethal. They can't do that here. They can't just dump all their mana into Sea Serpent or they die. They have to have something else to make it 6 instead of 5. So our opponent does cast and Anticipate, digging through the top 3. See what they find. Hopefully nothing. If they hit a removal spell here, it's the same as if they had spent 7 and just gave unblockable, because obviously Walking Corpse can just die here and then we take 5, still crack back for lethal. More creatures for our opponent. So we can't crack back for lethal now. They have plenty of blockers, many of which have very high toughness. So we take a hit from Sky. Ooh, they are going to attack with Sea Serpent. Now it's a possibility, right? Because they can only block 2 things. They block our 3-2, our 2-3, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, they go to 1. I mean, we definitely block here. There's no reason not to take this block, because we can block and then just make a 2-2 zombie anyway. With Graveyard Marshal. But yeah, now they block there, I guess. They block there. They take 8. We have to find some way to push in just 1 more damage here. Gorging Vulture blocks a Sky Scanner and gains us some life. Do we attack all here? It also fills the grave for Graveyard Marshal. We only need 1 blocker. We need a flying blocker, because if we attack all, they have to block 2 things. I guess the thing is, Bristling Boar survives the attack here, though. So if we attack all, like probably Graveyard Marshal dies, we got to play Gorging Vulture pre-combat so that we can actually get some zombies here and gain some life off of the Vulture. We get zombies by using Graveyard Marshal's ability before we attack with Graveyard Marshal, but then we definitely attack with it to confirm that we have lethal next turn, I think. We're at 8 life here. Yeah, we're pretty safe. So we attack for 2 in the sky for sure. I think we attack all, to be honest. Because they block there, they block there. They take 8. They go to 1 life. We're at 8 life. Can't block that, but we can block like there. Take 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess if they have a removal spell, they could... No, Greenwood Sentinel has to die on the blocks here. Because they have to block with both creatures, and anything Greenwood Sentinel blocks, it dies. So they have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 power to crack back with. Yeah, if they have a removal spell, I die. I think we don't attack all then. Because then I guess I just don't attack with Graveyard Marshal here. I attack with all this. They go to 7. Their best blocks would be just block 1, take 6. Go to 1, die to Flyers. Or if they block 2 things, they do lose Greenwood Sentinel. Block there, take 4, 5, 6, die to Flyers either way. I guess they don't die to Flyers either way because they can hold Sky Scanner back, but yeah, I think this attack's still worth it, pushing some damage here. Yeah, hit for 6, they're down to 3 here. And now we don't die to a single removal spell. And there's basically nothing they can do to not die next turn. They can hold all their creatures back, but because we hit them for so much damage there, even if they block our 3 biggest creatures, that, and that, they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. That was a crazy game. I do like our opponent representing Silver Quill, even though they're playing a blue-green deck, playing a Quandrix deck. Maybe that's what I should be doing, just always represent Lorehold, because that is my college, rather than doing the sleeves that just align with the deck I'm currently playing. I don't know. Yeah, that was a pretty good game. Graveyard Marshal obviously absolutely won that game for us, showing off the power of that card, doing some crazy stuff. We even milled our Elder Gargaroth with our Gorging Vulture, but it was a good thing we did because it gave us another life, it gave us the ability to make another zombie. Alright, we're going first here. Definitely keepable. We know we have Dryad turn 2, Spores turn 4. Obviously not the ideal curve, but it's definitely something. Even if we draw into garbage. We have a late game plan of just having a Colossal Dreadmaw. Opponent starts up with a Vampire Neonate. We have drawn into a Graveyard Marshal, so we'll probably cast that on turn 3 here, get a counter on the Dryad, start leveling that up. Blood Burglar from our opponent. It's going to be annoying with the lifelink. Might Strangling Spores that. We'll see. Our opponent is on black-white, so likely to be a life gain deck. They've got a Vampire Neonate and a Blood Burglar. 2 mana for a 2/2 lifelinker and a 1 mana 0/3 that can drain us for a life every turn. Take 2 here down to 18, and they drop a Fetid Imp and an Anointed Chorister. Alright. Well, I feel like I'm more likely to want to Strangling Spores the Chorister than the Blood Burglar then. Because once they hit 5 mana, that is basically a 4/4 lifelinker anytime they need it. I think I go for a Rejuvenator here then, because I don't think we're Strangling Sporesing this turn. We'll grab a Forest, I guess. Play our land for turn. We get to cast Dreadmaw next turn, which should be pretty big. If I attack with Graveyard Marshal, if I attack with anything, they have to double block to kill it. So if I attack with Quirion Dryad, they probably just block with Neonate. But they could block with Imp and Chorister, and then I get to kill whichever one of those I want, which feels like a trade-up, because I only have one other black spell here, so Quirion Dryad's just going to be a 3/3 at this point. That's all we know for sure. Yeah. Just going to not attack. I don't want to attack with Graveyard Marshal because I don't want to lose it, and I feel like Quirion Dryad probably just gets blocked with Neonate. It's probably better to have the option to block something with Quirion Dryad, especially because we see a Johnny's Pridemate here, so we want to shut off as much life gain from them as we can, because that'll just keep getting bigger and bigger the more times they gain life, so we just got to shut off their life gain here, I think. That, or I suppose we could Strangling Spores on that instead of the Chorister, which is maybe the play, because we do have Colossal Dreadmaw coming up. That'll be a 6/6. That is going to be big enough to always deal with Chorister, but Pridemate might get big enough to where it's not. I guess I'm not blocking here. So we can strangle that. But of course, strangling that means we're not casting a Dreadmaw this turn. Do I want to attack with Dryad if I strangle Pridemate? It'll be a 3/3. Might be able to get a 2-for-1 if I attack with Dryad here, and I don't think I'll be wanting to block with it. I guess a 3/3 blocker would be good against a Blood Burglar. But I might be able to get a pretty cheeky combat in here. Kill 2 things, the price of 1. But they may just block it with the Johnny's Pridemate, and then I've tapped down my Dryad for basically nothing. Our opponent's got the Rope. Don't know what they're thinking about. They have 1 black mana up, so they have the Fetid Imp mana. I'm not sure what exactly they are considering here. Send in our Quirion Dryad and see what happens. They're going to block it with the Imp. Sure. Going to give Death Touch. Sure. Well, this is the one thing I didn't think about with my Strangling Spores, because now I have to kill the Imp if I don't want the Dryad to die. I think Dryad's still okay to die to the Imp, because we do have Graveyard Marshal. We don't have any more black spells right now, so it's going to be just a 3/3 right now. Not likely to get bigger. Just kill the Pridemate. And get zombies out of it. So our opponent's stuck on 3. Nope. There's the 4th land there. They are not stuck on 3 mana, that's for sure. Murder on the Graveyard Marshal. Well, that is rough. Ooh, I was really hoping for the attack with the Anointed Chorister. I was like, yes. Yes, please. I would love to trade there. Rabid Bite allows us to trade there as well. Pride Malkin can make Rejuvenator a 2/2 to trade with Blood Burglar. So I play a 6/6. Or I get to kill Chorister right now. I'm just going to kill Chorister right now. Make both of these big enough to kill their Blood Burglar. Gravedigger. Pick up the Chorister again, I suppose. Johnny's Pridemate. Alright, does combo with the Blood Burglar, so it's basically a 3/3 here. Ooh, Elder Gargaroth, you're so good, but I'm going to play Dreadmaw first. In case they have more removal, we'll draw out the removal for that. Johnny's Pridemate coming out. Looks like no removal yet. So, Elder Gargaroth it is. Probably should have attacked first, but I'm excited. I'm excited about this big dork. Send in the Dreadmaw. They're going to take 6. They have gained a lot of life. I guess they are at 26 there, so they do just take it. So that was likely to happen, whether we cast Gargaroth pre-combat or post-combat there, so I don't think it super matters. They do just have the Lich's Caress. Well, that sucks. Definite just tradesies here. I mean, Definite trades with the Lifelinker because they have a Johnny's Pridemate. I think we trade both here. Pridemate's a 5/5 now. Ooh, Fenlurker's a sweet draw. Exile one of their 2 cards in hand here. Obviously the Imp is going to be pretty good as well, but we can't give it Death Touch immediately, so Pridemate is going to be hitting us for a lot this next turn. Still got to attack with Dreadmaw, because if we don't attack with Dreadmaw, we're just going to trade Dreadmaw into Pridemate on blocks. Which definitely seems bad. We'd much rather try to get the Imp to kill the Pridemate. They could also not attack with Pridemate if they just want to block our Dreadmaw. Alright, so we're down to 6 now. We've gotten a murder for the Pridemate, but we're at 6 life, so do we want to murder Neonate? We're on a 6-turn clock. What kind of clock are they on? We can buff Fenlurker once. They take 6, 7, 8, 9. They're on a 3-turn clock. 9 3 times is 27 damage, even if they gain 3 life. Yeah, I think we murder Pridemate. I mean, Neonate is scary too, but... just murder Pridemate, get as much damage in as possible. Now they're hitting us for 1 damage a turn. We're hitting them for a lot more. They can't block anything with Neonate or we kill Neonate. Pacifism on Dreadmaw. That slows down our clock quite a bit. Actually, that slows down our clock enough that they might be winning the race now. Any blocks here? No blocks. Makes sense. Keep that Neonate around, obviously. They're on a 5-turn clock, I think. I think we still win the race right now. Because they hit us for 1 a turn and gain a life. We hit them for 4 a turn. So they're down to 9 here. They're basically taking 3 a turn. So then it's going to be their 6, we're 4. So it just depends on what we both draw here. They've drawn a Palladium Mirror. We've drawn a land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not enough mana to triple pump Fenlurker yet, which is not great. Actually, we don't have the life to afford attacking with Fenlurker now, so actually we do just... lose to that. So if we attack with Fenlurker, they can just not block and then attack with Palladium Mirror and speed up their clock a ton. Definitely got to draw into something. Nice. Agonizing Siphon for the 3 damage to our face, then they gain 3 life. Pretty rough way to end that game. In hindsight, we should have killed the Neonate instead of the Pride Mate, but depending on when they drew those cards, I think we still just get stomped there, because they just Agonizing Siphon our 1 Death Toucher then. And then we just get killed by Pride Mate even faster than we lost there. So, not a game we were likely to win either way. I believe we're 1-1 now, heading into round 3. See if we can ever get an attack out of an Elder Gargaroth. Well, this hand is awkward, but we've got Quarian Dryad and Fetid Imp with the black mana to give the Imp Death Touch. So we get to play Dryad turn 2, and Imp with the Death Touch mana up on turn 3. Seems like decent early game plans. Now we have a Cage Zombie for turn 3 as well if we don't need a Death Toucher out, which is likely. It's not often that you need to Death Touch something away that early in the game. Ooh, a Fenlurker as well. Plenty of great black spells to cast after the Dryad to make her larger and larger. Our opponent is on the same color scheme as us. Black-green, nice Witherbloom. They start off with a Barony Vampire, 3 mana for a 3/2. I think we play just our Cage Zombie, probably offer the trade there. Not going to offer the trade with the Dryad because it's obviously going to get much larger this game. It's going to turn into a 5/5 if we cast every black spell that is currently in our hand. And we can cast all of them except for Blood Divination right now. Just 1 mana away from that one. Temple of Malady from our opponent. Dual land that scries 1 when it comes into play. A Rabid Bite to kill the Quarian Dryad. Never going to have a 5/5 Dryad either. As cool as it would be. Definitely not going to murder a 3/2 here. I don't think Imp does much, so I guess we just drop a Fenlurker. Get rid of one of their cards. I guess with Imp we get to start attacking for like 1 a turn with flying. But doesn't seem that crazy. I do like the idea of sacrificing the Fenlurker to the Blood Divination because looking at our hand, this isn't a game that we're incredibly likely to have the mana to just keep pumping a Fenlurker. So I don't think that its pump ability makes it particularly great here. Basically just a 1/1 for us this game. Infectious Horror from our opponent. 2/2, whenever it attacks we lose 2 life. Well, since I have not drawn the 4th mana, I think I want to just block, try to trade with that by pumping up here. Rather than casting Pride Malkin. I guess Pride Malkin we can trade the 2/1 into the 2/2, but then we do make the Fenlurker a 2/2 off of Pride Malkin's +1/+1 counter. Because if I play this, I don't want to have my 3/2 trade into a 2/2, I'd rather have a 2/1 trade into a 2/2. Yeah, this definitely makes Fenlurker a less attractive card to sacrifice to Blood Divination. I'm going to hold it back here though in case they have removal. I do want to be on the defensive this game. We have 2 Colossal Dreadmaws, so we have big late game enders. So I'd rather be safe against a removal spell and know that I'm trading for Horror than get in for 2 damage there, potentially. Just get their stuff off the board, grind this game out as well as we can. Epicure of Blood, it's going to be a 4/4. We might murder that. Although we can just play an Imp. Probably hold off on the murder as long as possible. We 100% have this game if the game goes long, because now we have Graveyard Marshal as well, an insane card in the late game as we've seen before. We already have 2/2/2 zombies available from the Graveyard Marshal, so this one card with enough mana and time will be a 3/2 and 2/2/2s already, which is pretty devastating. And it's only going to get more and more valuable the longer the game goes on. The more creatures trade. They're going to send in the Infectious Horror. We'll trade it with our weakest creature here, or trade it for their pump spell if they have a pump spell. No pump spell, so we are just trading for the creature itself. And a Bloodthirsty Aerialist from our opponent. That is a flyer that is likely to get bigger throughout the games. That's pretty scary. Imp can still block that, but obviously not if we're planning on blocking Epicure with the Imp. So we are getting to the point where we're going to have to murder something to hold everything off. We do have enough mana to cast Murder and give the Imp Death Touch, so I think that's the play here. Just hold off and see what they do here. See what ends up looking the most threatening to us. We could even pump Fenlurker up to a 3/3. Unfortunately, that is not big enough to fight with the Epicure yet. They have a Lich's Caress to kill the Imp. And they gain 3 life off of that, so that turns the flyer into a 3/4 flyer. I think we have to murder the flyer then, because the flyer is only doing 1 less damage per turn, and it's evasive. We have tons of other ground blockers potentially that we could like double block to kill Epicure with, or if we get enough mana, we could even double pump Fenlurker to trade with Epicure. So I think we just have more ways to deal with the Epicure than the flyer, even though Epicure is hitting us for 1 more per turn right now. And now we just get to cast a couple blockers here, set up some blocks for the Epicure in the future. Don't think we're double blocking Epicure right now though, because we definitely don't want to lose Graveyard Marshal. And double blocking with Sorcerer and Fenlurker doesn't do anything, so we just attack in here. We just take 4, go to 9 life. We have 4 creatures in our grave for the Graveyard Marshal. Definitely going to be running around with all that value. A Short Sword here to turn the Epicure into a 5/5. That's actually pretty brutal. My plan was to just hold all my mana up so that I could block with Fenlurker as a 3/3 and Sorcerer as a 1/3, so a 3/3 and a 1/3 against a 4/4. Obviously turning it into a 5/5 stops that dead in its tracks. So we have to get hit by it 1 more time. We're probably going to end up blocking with the Sorcerer of the Fang then. Liliana's Steward from our opponent. They make us discard a card. I think we can win this game with just Graveyard Marshal rather than a Dreadmaw. And we're still 1 green mana away from a Dreadmaw. We need double green, so not only do we need another land, we need specifically a forest. So I think I'm going to play this land here. And, well, maybe we discard Blood Divination, actually. Because we already have the cards we need to win the game. We have Graveyard Marshal, we have 2 Dreadmaw. I don't know, we'll see. Probably discarding Blood Divination to the Liliana's Steward, actually. But Yeah, I think we're chump blocking Epic here with the Sorcerer of the Fang now, because worst case scenario, our 1/3 just turns into a 2/2, which is fine. We have to start chump blocking at this point. But obviously the turn after that, we'll have the zombie tokens to actually trade up into the Epic here with a Fenlurker and a zombie token. Does depend on what they draw into. If they do immediately draw into the removal, that also makes Epic here bigger. We're not going to get out of it. We know that they're drawn into goodies too, because they haven't played a land in a few turns. Rough. I mean, we definitely make a thing here. We could buff Fenlurker, but then we have 4 power. It's not enough. So we just make a zombie here. Dryad's probably the least likely for us to want to return with a Soul Salvage if we ever draw one. We do have to chump block here, but now chump blocking is a lot worse because we don't get to... we actually get to kill a Steward here. That's pretty great. But yeah, chump blocking is a lot worse now because we don't get zombies out of the deal. If we hit a land, we could double pump Fenlurker and trade Fenlurker and zombie into Epic here. Or we could just cast Dreadmaw if we draw specifically a forest. Didn't draw land here, we draw Soul Salvage. We have 2 mana up after casting that, so we can recast our Graveyard Marshal. Or a Fetid Imp or something. We'd probably take Graveyard Marshal and Fetid Imp. We don't have enough mana to return Fetid Imp and give it Death Touch immediately, which isn't great, but eventually we can do that. So I think that is the pick. Definitely Graveyard Marshal. I mean, that is still our solid game ender, and it can just keep giving us chump blockers at the very least. I'm going to drop out the Marshal first, but we'll play the Imp next turn. Got to hold back the 2/2 as a chump blocker. They're at 21 life, so hitting in for 2 doesn't do a lot for us here. With how many cards we have in our hand and powerful abilities like Graveyard Marshals, our plan is to stabilize here, so we need to do absolutely everything in our power to keep Graveyard Marshal around. So I think we need to be as defensive as possible and not attack with Fenlurker, just in case they have something that's like a Disfigure to give -2/-2 to a creature, and then they like force a Fenlurker block here. That would be so much worse than just losing a zombie token. We have to like keep our better cards out. You know, this game is just, it's absolutely not a race. It's just, if we stabilize, we win. If we don't, we lose. Rejuvenator plus Imp, but we don't have the 3 mana for Imp after casting Rejuvenator here. I can cast Imp and have the 3 mana to make a zombie or the 1 mana to give Death Touch. Thallid is an issue now, though. We probably have to block with Fenlurker there. Short Sword does make most of their creatures an issue, but not once we get enough zombies. We just don't have the mana to make enough zombies per turn right now. Attack with just the Thallid. Trade with Fenlurker then. Now they just have a 1/1. They can turn into a 2/2 with the Short Sword, but that's nowhere near as bad for us as a 4/3. Crypt Lurker. Sacrifice the 1/1 to draw a card here. Seems pretty great. Now they have a 5/5 and a 3/4. If they throw a Short Sword on it, they have a 5/5 and a 4/5, which is really bad. Another equipment, the Malefic Scythe here. Strangling Spores could do something, but not likely to do something great. We need to hold up our Death Touch mana for sure, so we can Death Touch block something with the Imp, and I think we want to chump block with an Elvish Rejuvenator, because we definitely can't, if we get a zombie out, it comes into play tapped, so we can't chump block with a zombie. So I think rather than Strangling Spores here, we're going to chump block with a Rejuvenator. We really need to hit a forest here for Dreadmaw. Oh my god, how many cards in are we with 1 forest? More than halfway there, 21 cards left. And we just looked at 5 more. I guess we do have a less green than black, that's for sure, because we have double black on important cards like Fenlurker and Graveyard Marshal, so we have 10 swamps, 7 forests. So this will definitely happen from time to time. Skymarch Bloodletter, that's pretty... Actually, that's okay for us. We have Strangling Spores. was going to say that's pretty bad for us because we need to trade imp into something big here. But with Strangling Spores, we can just kill that with that. Not if they double equip it, actually. That would be pretty terrible. So please don't hold up the mana to double equip. I guess they only need 1 mana if we kill the thing that has a Malefic Scythe on it. Yeah, the Malefic Scythe is going to give +2/+2 to something if I kill the creature that it's currently equipped onto. So if I kill Epicure this turn, they can then spend 1 mana to put the Scythe on this Bloodletter and make it a 4/4 flyer, and then Strangling Spores can't kill it anymore. So we actually have to block Crypt Lurker here and kill the smaller creature, which is kind of rough. But that's the only play we know we get to kill Bloodletter and not just die to that with multiple equipments on it. Yep, whenever equipped creature dies, so if I kill Epicure, this Scythe gives +2/+2. And they move that 1 over and Bloodletter's a 4/4. If they move Short Sword over, Bloodletter's a 3/3 and we can still kill it. We have to block like this. We definitely have to give Death Touch. Alright, well, it's too late for the Dreadmaws here. I think we have to Strangling Spores. And we have to block with our Graveyard Marshal. I don't think we can win. We can Strangling Spores Bloodletter. Obviously, we take 6 if we don't block Epicure, so we can't survive that. We have to chump block. Got 7 mana here. I could cast a Dreadmaw, and then I can double block Epicure. There's no way that we win if we Strangling Spores Bloodletter and chump block Epicure, right? Because if we do that, then Epicure's a 7/7 on attacks. So we block there, then we play a Dreadmaw, and we have to chump block there because we're at 6. We're just perpetually just having to chump block. So we have to have them misplay. We have to like play Dreadmaw, double block Epicure. Sure, we lose Graveyard Marshal, but then we still have Dreadmaw on the board. And then we have to just immediately draw into a way to kill Bloodletter, or have them have equipment on a different creature so that Bloodletter's not too big for Strangling Spores. Yeah, we just 100% will not win if I Strangling Spores Bloodletter. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because... yeah, it's the only thing we could do. We could Strangling Spores. I guess we get the Strangling Spores and make 1 zombie. So 1 zombie plus Dreadmaw. 8 power and toughness. 8 power and toughness against Epicure. Epicure's going to be a 7/7. We'll have 8 power and toughness next turn. Maybe that is better. We're stuck between 2 really bad options. Like, we could try to get a double block off so that we get to keep a Dreadmaw on board and then draw into a way to deal with Bloodletter. That seems less likely. I think we have to Strangle, make a 2/2. We have to chump block with Graveyard Marshal, but then a 2/2 plus a Dreadmaw can double block Epicure, even with both equipment on it. Five, 6, 7. We do have enough mana. Okay. Oh my god. Wait till their turn, so they might try to move more equipment to Bloodletter so we can soak up some of their mana at least. It doesn't really matter because they only have 1 card. They only have whatever they top decked. Well, we did soak up some more of their mana at least. Obviously equip on the Epicure now. They attack in. I have to chump block. But then 6/6 plus 2/2 can beat an Epicure, and I get to keep a 2/2 on this board. I'll get rid of the 1/3, I guess. We already used our Soul Salvage, didn't we? Yeah. So it doesn't matter what's in our grave. Crypt Lurker. We needed our opponent to draw like stone nothing. We're still alive, I guess, but it's not good. It's not good at all over here. They can't really make Crypt Lurker big enough to matter. So we have to just take that damage. They just attack both here, I think. We have to double block Epic here. Take the Crypt Lurker damage. I guess throwing Short Sword onto Crypt Lurker is probably their best play, because either way we're just trading one Dreadmaw for one Epicure, whether I double block it or single block it, so that way at least they sneak in one more damage. Could chump block Epicure here and just eat the Crypt Lurker, but I don't know, that seems pretty risky to me. How big does Crypt Lurker get here? It gets +3/+3. It's going to be a 6/7, so I have to double block it with Dreadmaw and a 2/2. Or they could just make Doom Dissenter a 3/3. If I throw Dreadmaw out, though, they have to throw everything onto Crypt Lurker to attack in. So we get to keep a 2/2 around, but then their equipment are just going to get there. Guess I do have to block both of these. This is a little weird to me, though. Now I get to keep my Dreadmaw, potentially? Much rather keep a Dreadmaw than a 2/2. If they moved the equipment around the other way, I would lose my Dreadmaw but keep my 2/2. Now I keep my Dreadmaw but lose my 2/2. Seems fine. Druid of the Cowl, spreading out their creatures, going wide here. Well, that was a cute combo. Turn the Doom Dissenter into a 3/3 since it took some damage there. To a nice little zombie there. We can Giant Spider. We definitely need blockers here, so I think we play Giant Spider Walking Corpse. So we can try to go for multi-blocks here. We're going to mill out before our opponent as well, so we have to find a way to close out this game, even if we can stabilize here, which we're still not stabilized yet. They have powerful equipment, and we're at 3 life. But it feels like we're heading in that direction, maybe. Does depend on... they get going here. Maybe it's better not to kill Druid, because Scythe does just keep getting better and better the more I kill, but I think we just kill as many of their creatures as we can. Doom Dissenter. Yeah, Scythe's getting pretty insane. That's a 5/5 now. Still not as big as a Dreadmaw, at least. Forest. Giant Spider doesn't help a giant amount here, so I think we get a little risky and sacrifice it. All we need is the Dreadmaw, and the Dreadmaw kills the center. I guess no, because we killed the center, and then it turns into a 2/2. The 2/2, the Scythe gets even bigger, so then the 2/2 is going to be +4, +5. 2/2 is going to be a 7/7. We need to double block that. I guess how many creatures are left in my deck, really? We have Elder Gargaroth, Epicure, Boneclad Necromancer, Mind Rot, Gorging Vulture, and Rabid Bite left in. A lot of our draws are pretty terrible right now. Yeah, I don't think we Blood Divination then, unfortunately. Like, Elder Gargaroth is great, but the Mind Rot is absolutely horrible. Rabid Bite is pretty bad. Boneclad Necromancer's solid here. Don't think we can sacrifice a Giant Spider to draw here. Opponent has 15 cards left in their deck. They've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands. So they have like 10 more lands in their 15 card deck. I think we just need them to hit a land clump. That's the big thing we need. More than anything. Like any creature in the world, just a 1-mana 1/2 is just massive with a Malefic Scythe at this point. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've drawn 7 lands all game? I'm really confused. Yeah. 7 lands all game. They only have 15 cards left. Okay. They could be playing a really low land count aggressive deck. We just can't sacrifice anything to this Blood Divination. Blood Divination looking absolutely horrible in this match. Oh dear. We have to double block healer, take 2, go to 1 life, then they throw everything on the zombie, and then we don't have double blocks for that anymore. I mean, we've lost our Dreadmaw at that point. Well, I think this is the end of the road here, but I've already survived so much longer than I thought was possible, so I'll take it as a moral victory. Tried really hard and got much farther than I think we should have. Good lord. I have to chump block with a Colossal Dreadmaw now. Seems about right. Well, not a great ending there. Definitely a bit of a tilting match. That is one of those things that does certainly happen. You can always look back on games like that, and when you count the number of lands you've drawn against the number of lands your opponent's drawn, and it's like you've drawn 13 and they've drawn 7, that means that they got to cast and play 5 more cards than you during that game. That's basically just going to be impossible to win every time. So they've just drawn into 5 more real cards. Plus, it actually took us quite a while to hit our lands in the first place. So we were wanting those lands. Maybe I was maybe I was praying for them too hard, and then we just hit them all at the end. Had a really bad time. But yeah, that was a game that we were never even in a decent position. So our opponent just got a firm lead from the start and kept it going. Soul Salvage is a pretty late game card, but I suppose so is Dreadmaw, but with Rejuvenator into Dreadmaw, that seems good. We just don't have a lot of creatures that are dying here for the Soul Salvage. Playing against a red deck this time. We've drawn into a Giant Spider for turn 4. That should be pretty good, hopefully. Sky Scanner coming on out. Solid 1/1 flyer, draws them a card. Here's our Elvish Rejuvenator. Grabbing a swamp. Now we have the mana for our Giant Spider if we want to hold off that Sky Scanner with it. Havoc Devils, 4/3 trample. That does attack into a Giant Spider pretty well. And Rapid Bite's not going to do anything there. We could Blood Divination and just take 5 here, just accept that. Help us hit our mana for Dreadmaw so we know we're hitting a land drop every turn. It actually seems alright to me, because even Boneclad Necromancer is going to be huge here, so we really need to hit our next mana. And our Rejuvenator doesn't even chump block well, because Havoc Devils has Trample here. So we're going to have to take a big hit here, go down to 14, but 14 is still a hardy life total. And now, obviously, since we drew 2 lands off of Blood Divination, we get to cast Dreadmaw next turn. If they don't have a Lich's Caress or Murder or something, that should hold down the fort quite well. We could alternatively play Boneclad Necromancer. That can actually trade the 3/3 for the Devils, the 2/2 for the Digger. It's a pretty good blocker, and definitely better if our opponent has the removal spell. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Necromancer. It's just a better play for if they have the one targeted removal spell, because then we still get something out of this, and we still get to at least trade a 2/2 up into their Destructive Digger, even if they use removal spell on the 3/3. Just a safer play generally. We are in... Well, if they have Scorching Dragonfire, that's a problem. Because obviously that wouldn't have killed a Dreadmaw, just doing 3 damage only. But we see black from our opponent. Black has Lich's Caress, Murder, all kinds of stuff to clear things out of the way. But I think that would be just a solid way to immediately lose this game, is if we drop down Dreadmaw and then they just destroy it, hit us for the full 8 damage there. Now we can cast 2 blockers again. We could cast Quirion Dryad and Epicure of Blood, or Quirion Dryad and Giant Spider. I would obviously rather get counters on my Dryad, but I do kind of need a flyer to start blocking Skyscanner here. I could play Epicure and Rabid Bite and just accept that Quirion Dryad's going to suck this game. We're just not going to cast any black spells after we've cast Dryad. We'll cast them all first. Kind of like that, because if I cast Epicure here, I do get to Rabid Bite their biggest attacker, their Havoc Devils, and then we've got the fort kind of held down on the ground, so we're just taking 1 damage from Skyscanner. And obviously we can just play Giant Spider next turn then. And they're going to start sacrificing lands to Destructive Digger. Very powerful utility ability on that card, getting you out of mana flood situations. They have 6 mana still, so definitely going to keep digging. Blood-Soaked Altar. Well, that's pretty horrible for us. They have the Blood-Soaked Altar plus Sanitarium Skeleton combo. Probably going to be unbeatable for us. Naturalizes aren't really main deckable in this format, so we're just not going to have anything that can kill an artifact here. And obviously with Sanitarium Skeleton in conjunction with this card, they can just keep sacrificing the skeleton, discarding the lands that they're drawing into, and just get a 5/5 flyer every single turn. Just absolutely no way out of that one for us. So that is going to end our run here. Just confirmed basically already, but I'll try my best again. I mean, last round I thought we were confirmed dead like 20 turns before it happened. So maybe we'll find some cheeky way out of this. Doesn't seem super likely, though. Yeah, even if we play a Dreadmaw, they just have, like, block it with a 5/5 and a 3/2. Because they're going to get another one next turn. I don't know what's best here. Maybe Giant Spider, Gorging Vulture. Just get as much stuff out here as possible. We milled our Elgar Gargaroth. You know what? I think I'm good. I think I'm good at that point. Definitely a rough draft all around. We have run up against some very good decks. The Blood-Soaked Altar, Sanitarium Skeleton combo going to destroy us there. Just some awkward draws on curve in some of our games. But we're going to scoop it up there. Was already pretty sure I was going to lose, and then the Gorging Vulture, just literally the top card being Elder Gargaroth. Just like, wow. I see how it is, Arena. I see how it's going to be today. But Magic is a skill and luck-based game, and weird things like that will happen. Offensive mills like that. I think we got... did get it just like handed to us fair and square in a lot of these rounds, though. I don't remember specifically, but I don't think it was like we got extra mana flooded or bombed out or anything. I think the biggest loss, the longest game, was our opponent had some just very solid equipment, making sure that every creature they drew from that turn on just became a massive threat, to the point where they even got bigger than the Dreadmaw that we had. So that game was pretty insane. But anyways, I think that is going to end today's premiere draft of the core sets format. I will, of course, be back again tomorrow with more of these. We'll be playing these daily until they rotate out on April 2nd for the Arena Cube drafts, and then we'll be doing a lot of those until the launch of Strixhaven. So stay tuned for that. If you are interested in more draft comment, make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want YouTube to recommend the video to yourself and others more often. And as always, just... thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all of the subs lately. The support has been phenomenal for these core set drafts, and I do really appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.